Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and thanks for tuning in to the Silva International vlog hosted by yours truly, Ross Silver. I've been consulted, or I should say I've been approached by a number of people who suggest that I should consider wardrobe changes as well as makeup changes and hair changes because I'm not looking the way I should look on video and on camera. I told those people that unfortunately I will not be wearing any makeup, or I should say fortunately I will not be wearing any makeup, nor will I have any sort of professional work done with my hair, because that is not me, and I plan to stay the same for as long as I can. So with that said, let's dive into the reason why you're watching this, which is not to hear about me talking about hair and makeup. The reason why you're watching is because you want to understand about what's happening in the market and some ideas that are actionable. So first, let's start with market. It's been pretty volatile, no question about that. I know I'm stating the obvious, but what's the reason behind this volatility? Well, I think the answer is you had some people looking to do some profit taking, and as a result of doing some of that profit taking, it triggered quite a number of programmatic based trading platforms to sell, and so you had a pretty significant sell-off on Monday. You also had a pretty significant sell-off on Friday last week, and we've bounced back since then. That bounce back, I should note, which occurred yesterday, which was Tuesday, that bounce back was largely triggered by some short covering that occurred just given such a dramatic move to the downside that the Dow took. Today on Wednesday, we had a relatively flat day, and I expect that we might see some additional volatility with the VIX picking up, and we might see some more downside as it seems that profit taking is not yet done. Just given the dramatic rise that the market saw, specifically, in the month of December alone. So be on the lookout for some volatility and some potential downside near term. With that said, we would use any sort of downside as a buying opportunity for the names that you hold confidence in and names that we have confidence in. I highly recommend that you visit our website, which is SylvaCap.com, to visit our portfolio of companies that we've included. That portfolio of companies is up 14% so far year to date, which we're definitely excited about. One of those companies I'm going to talk about right now, which is a company we're very excited about in the biotech sector, a sector that's been relatively dormant over the last, I'd say, 4 or 5 years, specifically in the microcap side of things. But I think that will change here in 2018, given there's a number of companies, particularly some of the mid-cap companies that are reporting data like Madrigal, CRISPR, or some of these companies in the gene editing, CAR-T, when we saw the Juno acquisition, areas of interest like oncology that have piqued people's interest, the gene editing side that's piqued people's interest, and you're starting to see some of these deals done, and with that, valuations of some of these microcaps have started to pick up. And also in the mid-cap range, you also seen valuations pick up. So let's turn the page here to SylvaGenics. So SylvaGenics is a company, ticker is SNGX, Sam, Nancy, Gary, X-Ray. A company that I'm very fond of, a company I've been following for close to 5 years now. I'm a big fan of their CEO, Chris Shaver. He very much understands the FDA process. When I say the FDA process, that means how to enroll people into trials, how to get those trials done in a competent manner. And he's done an excellent job with the 2 phase 3 trials that they have currently. He also has a study ongoing with Rivax, which we'll get into in a second. But let's first talk about these 2 phase 3 studies that are actively enrolling patients, and we're very excited to see the data on. So the first being the CTCL compound, which is Hypericin. That study we will see results from that study sometime this year. The interim results are going to be very compelling, and we look forward to receiving those and seeing if there's any changes to the phase 3 study relative to the earlier studies that the company's conducted. We think that CTCL could be a catalyst and a significant catalyst for SylvaGenics, just given that they would be the only show in town with their compound. Changing gears now over to the oral mucositis compound, which obviously a larger market. You're looking at about a $500 million market for oral mucositis. Again, no treatment that's sort of a standard treatment. So SylvaGenics would be the only show in town for oral mucositis if this 942 proves to be successful. So the company announced that they'll have data in the first half of 2019. We'll probably get some interim data here in 2018, and that also could serve as a pretty significant inflection point for SylvaGenics. If you note in the last round that the company raised capital, and they've also been very good about non-dilutive capital, but I'll get to that in a second. The last round, there were 2 institutional anchor tenants that were involved. One was Fred Knoll, and the other one was ACT. So having two anchor tenants come into SylvaCap says a lot, especially given that the deal was done at a premium to market, which you just don't see in the biocap, specifically microcap biotech sector. So having two of those, two large groups come in and buy SylvaCap at a premium definitely gives me a lot of confidence. And I think it's a pretty smart investment considering the catalyst that the company has. And I think the company is going to be basically transformed within the next 18 months, given the data readouts that are coming. So a very exciting time for SylvaCap. These things do not happen overnight. And I know a lot of people get frustrated with some of these microcap biotechs saying, why aren't people responding? Why don't people get it? Why is the stock not reacting better? All that sort of stuff. But the way that the biotech sector works, specifically microcap, is it's very much data driven. And you can also get some excitement leading into that data. And I think we'll start to see some of that this year for SylvaCap. And it's not like you see a move from, say, $2, which is where SylvaCap is trading right around now, a move from $2 up to, say, $3 or $4. You're going to see, if the data is positive, let's say we get a nice readout for interim for CTCL, we get a nice readout for interim for 942 for oral mucositis. If we see positive data from those studies, I think this stock is going to gap up and gap up significantly. Again, invest, with your own abilities and with all due caution. Please, take these words. But I think this is an exciting time for SylvaCap. We've added it to our portfolio, which you can see on our homepage at sylvacap.com. In closing, I do want to mention their ricin toxin vaccine, which has been funded by government grants, and they've done an excellent job of obtaining government grants. It's very difficult to be able to get these government grants because the government's not just looking to hand out money to anyone. You have to go through a pretty significant and very extensive validation process in order to be able to get these grants. And SylvaCap has been able to get in excess of $50 million in government grants. They were successful last year. They'll be successful again this year. So that's pretty nice validation to have, is the government coming in saying, hey, we like what you're doing. And we think that there's some merit to these studies, and we want to fund these studies in their entirety, which is what the government has been doing. So that we're definitely encouraged to see some of the results from the ricin toxin vaccine, which we'll see here in 2018. And do not forget about the priority review vouchers, which is something that this vaccine would be eligible for. For those of you unfamiliar with priority review vouchers, this is something that the FDA issues to companies that have compounds that there is no therapeutic option for, and they want to accelerate the approval process, and as such can shorten that approval process by 6 months by giving out these priority review vouchers. You may not think that that's a big deal, but 6 months is a gigantic deal when you're talking about clinical studies. And a lot of these large pharma companies, even mid-sized pharma companies, have been willing to pay in excess of $100 million and almost up to $200 million for these priority review vouchers. And so when you consider SylvaCap's market cap, and you consider what the value of just one of these priority review vouchers could represent to SylvaCap, should they get one, and again, should they get one, there's no guarantees. I mean, that's a pretty significant catalyst in and of itself. So kind of backing up and looking at the three things here for SylvaCap, you have the CTCL study, you have the oral mucositis study, and you have the ricin toxin vaccine. We're going to get CTCL in 2018, ricin 2018, oral mucositis 2019. We should have some interim data from the two therapeutic candidates, that being oral mucositis as well as CTCL here in 2018, which I very much look forward to. And I think that those could be, considerable valuation changers if they prove to be positive. So that's it for this update here. Plan to be back next week. I apologize for skipping on a couple of these weekly updates. I was just nailed by a pretty nasty sinus infection, so I've been able to take care of that with some antibiotics. For those of you suffering with the flu and some of this other nasty stuff going around this winter, my thoughts are definitely with you, because it's been a pretty nasty winter. In any event, thank you again for watching. We appreciate all your views as well as the emails that you send us. Any comments or thoughts, feel free, info@sylvacap.com. And thank you again for tuning in, and best of luck out there.